Hey there, welcome to the channel. If you're looking for the perfect way to unwind and drift off to sleep, you're in the right place. Tonight, we've got a whole hour of some of the most interesting and emotional Reddit stories from crazy family. Dramas to heartwarming moments to help you relax and escape the day. So get comfortable, let go of your worries, and let these stories carry you into a peaceful sleep. Don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoy this, and make sure to subscribe for more stories to relax to in the future. Now let's get started and dive into tonight's tales. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and let's fall asleep together. Enjoy. I lied about having cancer to keep my family together. Now I don't know who I am anymore. I don't expect forgiveness for this. Honestly, I don't even know what I expect by writing this out. I guess I just need someone, anyone, to know what I did, because the weight of it is crushing me. Every day I look in the mirror and see a fraud, a manipulator, a liar. But I wasn't always like this, at least I don't think I was. I, 34F, come from a big, messy family. I'm the second oldest of 5 kids. My dad was military, strict, cold, and emotionally unavailable. My mom was the opposite, warm, flaky, chronically overwhelmed. She leaned on me a lot growing up. I was the responsible one, the peacekeeper, the helper. When things went wrong, it was usually me patching it up, smoothing it over, calming everyone down. That carried into adulthood. I was the one who remembered birthdays. I called my siblings when they weren't talking to each other. I helped my mom get out of debt. I drove 6 hours to bail my little brother out of a DUI mess. I've always been the one trying to hold this family together with duct tape and emotional labor. Then everything started to fall apart. It started with my dad. About 5 years ago, he had a stroke that left him partially paralyzed, and even more, bitter than he already was. He moved in with my mum again, after they'd been divorced for over a decade. It was tense, volatile. She took care of him because she felt guilty, not because she loved him. My older sister, Angie, moved out of state and went no contact with our parents. My younger brother got hooked on opioids. My youngest sister got pregnant at 19 and dropped out of college. Every group chat we had became a minefield. Every phone call was some new crisis. And me? I was the one picking up the pieces. Again. Always. Then came the moment I snapped. I remember it clearly. It was Thanksgiving, 4 years ago. I had planned the dinner, hosted everyone, cleaned, cooked, arranged rides, even paid for my brother's bus ticket. And somehow it still blew up. My dad said something cruel to my youngest sister about being a welfare mom, she cried. My brother showed up high, my mom drank too much, and Angie didn't show up at all. After everyone left, I sat on my kitchen floor surrounded by dirty dishes and crumpled napkins, and just broke. I cried for hours, not just sadness, rage. Years of being the glue, the fixer, the punching bag, all boiling over. I didn't want to do it anymore. I wanted out. But I didn't know how to stop without letting everyone down. And that's when the lie was born. At first, it wasn't even a lie. It was a feeling, a fantasy. I imagined what would happen if I got sick, like really sick. Would they finally take care of me? Would they stop fighting and focus on me for once? Would they finally see me? I told my best friend first, half joking. I said, "Sometimes I wish I'd get cancer so everyone would just shut up and come together for once." She looked at me like I'd slapped her. But instead of calling me out, she hugged me and said, "Don't ever say that. You're the healthiest one of us. You're the strong one," and that solidified something in my head, a seed. I didn't plan to lie. Not at first, but a few weeks later, I had a bad flu and went to urgent care. They ran some blood work. It was nothing serious, but it gave me an idea. I called my mom and said the blood work came back weird, that they were checking for something serious, that I didn't want to alarm anyone yet. I used vague language. I let her fill in the blanks. Within hours, my siblings were calling me. Even Angie texted me. My phone, usually silent unless someone needed something, was lighting up with concern. For me, I should have stopped there, but I didn't. I leaned in. A week later, I told them it was early-stage lymphoma. I picked that because it sounded bad but survivable. I did enough. Googling to make it sound plausible. I said I was starting treatment soon. I never used the word cancer directly, just hinted. Let their imaginations do the rest, and suddenly everything changed. My mum started checking in every day. She told me she was proud of me, that she was sorry for leaning on me too much. My dad, even he, sent me a card. My siblings stopped fighting. They organized a family group chat just to check on me. Angie flew home for the first time in 3 years. We had dinner together. She cried and hugged me and said she missed me. It was everything I ever wanted, and it was built on a lie. But the more they leaned in, the deeper I dug. I made a fake chemo schedule. Told them I was tired, nauseous, losing my hair. I bought a cheap wig online and wore it in photos. My co-workers had no idea. I kept my work life and personal life totally separate. I made excuses to avoid in-person visits. Said I didn't want them to see me weak. Everyone respected that, said I was so brave. It was intoxicating. For the first time in my life, I felt like I was being seen, loved even. Not for what I did, for everyone, but just for existing. But lies have a cost, and mine started racking up interest fast. One day, my youngest sister posted on Facebook asking for donations for a GoFundMe she made for my treatments. I panicked. I begged her to take it down. Said I didn't want attention. She pushed back. Said people wanted to help. I snapped and said something cruel. She cried. I apologized. She took it down, but the cracks were showing. My mum wanted to come to a treatment session. I told her I'd rather be alone. She insisted. I screamed at her on the phone. Said she never respected my boundaries. She didn't talk to me for a week. I told my siblings she was having a hard time dealing with my illness. They rallied around me. Every lie required another lie. Every new day brought new guilt. Then last year I said I was in remission. Everyone cried, celebrated. My mom said it was a miracle. My brother said I was the strongest person he knew. Angie told me she was proud of me for fighting. And for a while things stayed good, better than they'd ever been. But I knew it was fragile. Then 2 months ago, my dad had another stroke. He's in a care facility now. My mom's health is declining. The family is falling apart again. Angie's pulled away. My brother relapsed. The same cycle, the same chaos. And here I am, still pretending. They think I beat cancer. They think I'm a survivor. They still treat me like this brave, strong anchor in the storm, but I'm not brave. I'm not strong. I'm a liar, a coward. I wanted them to love me so badly that I manipulated them into it. I stole their attention. I built a relationship with them on falsehoods, and now I don't know how to exist without it. I think about coming clean every day. But what would I even say? Hey, remember that time you all came together and supported me? That was a lie. I made it up. I exploited your compassion because I was lonely and emotionally starved. They'd never forgive me. Hell, I wouldn't forgive me. Sometimes I fantasize about faking a recurrence just to keep them close, and then I hate myself even more. So that's my confession. I lied about having cancer. Not for money, not for fame, just for love. And now I'm stuck in a prison of my own making, wearing a survivor's mask, drowning in guilt. I don't expect sympathy. I just wanted someone, anyone, to know the truth, because I can't carry it alone anymore. I secretly switched my brother's paternity test results, and now I'm the only one who knows the truth. Nobody knows what I did. Nobody ever will, unless someone finds this post. It's been 2 years, and I still lie awake at night wondering if I did the right thing. Was I protecting my family, or just trying to play God? I, 29F, grew up in a small town where gossip spreads faster than wildfire. My family's been there for generations. My dad owned the local hardware store. My mom was a school librarian, and my older brother, Chris, 32M, was everyone's golden boy. Football star, prom king, all that cliché small-town stuff. I was always the quiet one, more into books than bonfires, but we were close. Chris was a good brother. Protective. Kind in that older sibling way where he teased you but would also knock out anyone who looked at you wrong. We didn't always see eye to eye. He leaned conservative, I leaned liberal. He loved country music, I couldn't stand it. But he was family. He was my best friend. Then everything changed with one phone call. It was 2.5 years ago. I had just gotten home from work when I saw Mom's name on my screen. I picked up and she was sobbing. Chris's girlfriend, Heather, 28F, had just told him she was pregnant. At first, that wasn't the problem. He'd been seeing her for over a year, and even though I didn't like her, I kept my mouth shut. But here's the twist. She'd also admitted she had messed up around the time of conception. She wasn't sure if the baby was his. My mom was devastated. My dad, who had always liked Heather, went stone cold. Chris, he was spiraling. He called me the next day. "What do I do?" he asked. His voice was raw, and I remember feeling this sudden, almost maternal instinct to fix it. I told him to breathe, to talk to Heather calmly, and of course to get a paternity test. He agreed. She did too. They ordered one of those at-home kits you send to a lab. He swabbed, she swabbed, sent it in. And while they waited, the family held its collective breath. Here's where the story splits. Because while Heather and Chris were fighting and reconciling and spinning in circles, I was getting texts from my old college roommate, Rachel. Rachel works for a private diagnostics lab. Not the one Chris used, but she's in the industry. We hadn't talked in months, but I remembered something she told me once over drinks. Those mail-in tests, they're more about data than accuracy. Easy to manipulate. Half the time people don't even send the right samples. And that's when something inside me broke. I don't know what it was, fear, anger, the memory of seeing my brother cry. But I felt this urge to take control. I asked Rachel, hypothetically, what it would take to intercept or change a paternity test. She laughed and said, "As long as you know the tracking number and intercept the result email." Too easy. It was supposed to be a joke, but I started digging. Heather used Chris's email to register the test. He shared the password with me years ago when I was helping him job hunt. He never changed it. One night, I logged in. The test. Status said processing. A few days later, it changed to results ready. I opened the PDF. My stomach dropped. Chris was not the father. I remember just staring at the screen, rereading the line over and over. Probability of paternity, 0.00%. It felt like the air had been sucked out of the room, and then, almost immediately, I thought, if I don't tell him, he'll never know, so I opened Photoshop. I'm not tech-savvy, but I know enough. I copied the layout, changed the numbers, flipped the result. Probability of paternity, 99.99%. I saved the file, uploaded it into his inbox, deleted the original, cleared the trash. I sat there, staring at the fake result, heart pounding, like a drum. Then I closed the laptop and went to bed. The next morning, Chris called me, voice cracking with relief. "It's mine," he said. "It's my baby." I didn't say anything, just whispered, "That's great." And just like that, the lie became reality. They got married in a courthouse 6 weeks later. The baby, Lily, was born that December. And she's beautiful. She has Heather's dark eyes and curly hair. Everyone says she looks like Chris when he was a baby. I see no resemblance. None. But I smile and nod and hold her when they hand her to me. She calls me Auntie. She hugs me, tight, and says she loves me. And every time she does, I feel like I'm choking on my own shame. Heather doesn't know I know. I don't even think she knows for sure who the real father is. Maybe she convinced herself it's Chris. Maybe she's just grateful the question went away. They're not perfect. God knows they argue more than they should. But they're still together. They're a family. And that's why I haven't said anything, because if I do, I destroy everything. I destroy Chris's marriage. I destroy Lily's sense of self. I risk turning her into some custody battle headline. I turn myself into the villain in my own brother's life. But every time I see them, when Chris kisses her forehead, when he calls her his little bug, when he rocks her to sleep after a nightmare, I wonder, did I save him, or did I steal the truth from a child who deserved to know where she came from? I used to believe that the truth always mattered. Now, I'm not so sure. Some nights I stare at the real test result I printed and hid in a shoebox under my bed. I think about burning it, about mailing it anonymously, about telling Rachel what I did, just so someone else knows. But I can't. Because as much as I hate myself for what I did, I'd do it again. I couldn't watch my brother break. Not like that. And maybe that makes me a monster. But monsters love too, that's my confession. I faked a whole relationship to get back at my ex. And I think I fell in love with the lie. I never thought I'd be the kind of person to write one of these. I always thought stories like this were exaggerated or fake, but I guess life gets weird when you let your emotions drive the wheel. What I'm about to say is real, and it's something I've never told anyone. Not my best friend, not my therapist, not even the person at the center of it all. But I need to let this out. Before it eats me alive, I, 28F, faked a relationship for over a year just to make my ex jealous. Not a casual fake. I mean deep, elaborate, Instagram official, friends and family included fake. It started as a joke, then it became a performance. Now, I don't even know where it ends and I begin. Let me rewind. My ex, Aaron, 31M, and I dated for almost 5 years. We met in college, moved in together after graduation, talked about marriage, the whole deal. I thought he was the one. He was calm, rational, kind in a distant sort of way. He had a career in software, always had a book in his hand and made me feel stable after a chaotic childhood. I clung to that feeling like a raft in a storm, but somewhere along the way, he stopped seeing me. He'd forget things I told him the day before. He'd zone out when I talked about my job. We hadn't been intimate in almost a year by the time he broke up with me, and when he ended it, it was like a business transaction. "It's not working," he said. "I don't think I love you anymore. I'm sorry." No tears, no big fight. Just a calm, sterile breakup after half a decade together. And within 2 weeks, he was dating someone else, a girl from his job, the kind of girl who wore yoga pants and posted rise and grind on her story. I stalked her social media like a lunatic. I couldn't believe how quickly he moved on. So I snapped. Not in a Kia car kind of way, more like the kind of snap that happens when your entire identity cracks and you don't know who you are without the person who just walked away from you. I started posting pictures with a guy I barely knew. His name was Damien. We met once at a mutual friend's birthday party. He was tall, tattooed, and the opposite of Aaron in every way. I remembered he had complimented my laugh. I messaged him on Instagram, told him I thought he was cool and asked if he wanted to grab a drink. He said yes. The drink turned into a picture, a boomerang clinking glasses. I posted it to my story. A few hours later, Aaron viewed it. That was all the confirmation I needed. The dopamine hit was instant, so I kept going. The next time Damien and I hung out, I asked him, half-jokingly, if he'd pretend to be my boyfriend for social media. He laughed, thought I was kidding. When he realized I wasn't, he blinked. And said, "Sure, why not? I've got time." That's how it started. I didn't expect it to go this far. At first it was harmless. A few staged photos at a park, a couple of selfies with captions like "weekend vibes" with this one. I was careful not to go overboard. I knew Aaron still watched my stories even though we didn't speak anymore. It became this silent war, fought with likes and filters. But then people started noticing. My friends asked who Damien was. I gave them half-truths. "Oh, we've been seeing each other for a bit. My mom saw a picture of us at a pumpkin patch and texted me, 'He's cute, you look happy.' I felt like I was floating outside of myself. This wasn't real, but people thought it was, so it felt real. Damien played along like a pro. We went out to dinners, parties, even a weekend trip to the lake with friends. He never tried anything physical. He never asked for more. He treated it like a role, like he was cast in a play. And I was the director, writer, and audience all at once. But then something shifted. I remember the exact moment. It was December. We went to a holiday market downtown. It was freezing and I hadn't brought gloves. Damien noticed and gave me his. Not in a performative way, not for a photo. Just quietly, while we walked. Then he bought me a hot chocolate and asked me about my job, not casually, but like he really wanted to know. I told him about a project I was struggling with, and he listened, really listened. It was more attention than Aaron had given me in the last year of our relationship, and it hit me like a freight train. I liked him, not just the idea of him, not just the revenge story. I liked him, but I couldn't say anything because our entire relationship was built on a lie. I was so far down the rabbit hole that even if I wanted to make it real, I didn't know how. What was I supposed to say? Hey, I know this started as a game, but I think I've accidentally fallen for you. So I said nothing. I smiled, I posted pictures. I kept the show going, until one night he broke character. We were lying on my couch watching a movie. Something dumb and loud, probably John Wick or something like that. I was half asleep when he said it. You know this isn't fake for me anymore, right? I froze. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it would crack my ribs. I didn't say anything, I couldn't. I just stared at the TV while he waited. After a minute, he stood up and grabbed his coat. I'm not mad, he said, but I'm not going to keep pretending if you're not even willing to be honest. And then he left. I didn't hear from him for 3 weeks. During that time, everything collapsed. Aaron posted a picture with his new girlfriend, all smiles and wine glasses and some caption about new beginnings. My friends started asking why Damien had disappeared from my feed. I stopped sleeping, stopped eating. The lie had become my reality, and now I didn't know how to function without it. Eventually, I texted Damien. I told him the truth. The whole truth. That I had started it all to get back at my ex. That I used him. That I never meant for it to go this far. That somewhere along the line, I stopped acting. He didn't respond. Not that day, not the next. A week later, I got a reply. Thanks for telling me. I need time. It's been 4 months since that text. I haven't dated anyone since. I deleted most of the fake couple photos from my socials. My friends think we broke up. My mom still asks about him sometimes, and I just say, it didn't work out. What else can I say? Sometimes I walk past places we used to stage pictures and feel a pang in my chest. Sometimes I scroll through our old messages and wonder if he meant it when he said it wasn't fake anymore. Sometimes I think about calling him, but I don't. Because what right do I have? I built our relationship on a lie. I don't know if I deserve to miss him, but I do every day. So that's my confession. I faked a relationship to get revenge, and in the end I only hurt myself. If Damien ever reads this, I'm sorry. And if you ever think about me, I hope you know I wasn't pretending anymore. Not with you, not after that night on the couch. I found out my sister's husband is my biological father, and I've never told her. This is the kind of secret that reshapes your entire identity. The kind of truth that should probably come out, but if it ever does, it would blow up a dozen lives. So instead, I live with it. I carry it around like a second spine, unseen but always there, holding up a version of me that isn't real. I'm 27F. My sister, Naomi, is 33F. We've always been close, even though we're 6 years apart. We kind of became best friends after we both moved out of our parents' house. I moved to the city for college, and Naomi followed a couple years later when her husband, Ben, now 42, got a job in our city. We'd meet up all the time, dinners, movie nights, random late-night walks. People used to say we were more like twins than sisters because we'd talk in sync, finish each other's sentences, that sort of thing. Naomi's always been the golden child. She's warm, loud, quick-witted. She lights up a room. I've always been more reserved, observant, not shy, but quieter. My parents used to say she was the storm and I was the still water. She married Ben when she was 26 and he was 35. He was her college professor. There was a scandal when it came out, but they waited until she graduated to go public. And eventually people forgot. Ben's always been charming. He teaches literature, quotes Rilke at dinner parties, makes craft cocktails like a bartender. From a noir film. I liked him past tense. Let me explain. When I turned 25, I took one of those stupid 23andMe kits. Not for any deep reason, just curiosity. I wanted to see if our family really was as German-Irish as my dad always claimed. I even joked with Naomi that maybe we'd find out we had a secret cousin somewhere. The results came in a month later, and they broke me. I matched with a woman who messaged me saying, "Hi, looks like we're half-sisters. I thought it was a mistake, maybe a cousin, a fluke. But when I clicked through, I saw we shared 26% DNA, which is a lot." I messaged her back, I asked questions, I was trying to be gentle, and she was so casual. She said her dad had been a sperm donor in his early 20s while in grad school, and she'd been conceived that way. She said she'd connected. with a few other half-siblings. She gave me his name, Ben. Ben, her dad was Ben, my sister's husband, her husband. I stared at the screen for a long time, just staring. I thought maybe it was a glitch. Maybe there was another man named Ben with the same last name, but I clicked through the profile. Photos, same face, same voice, same man. I matched with other half-siblings too, 3 so far, all born in the early to mid-90s, all conceived through the same sperm bank. One even lived just an hour away. None of them had known each other existed until the DNA test wave hit. But one thing was consistent. Ben had been a frequent donor in 1994, the year I was born. I confronted my mum. It took me a few weeks to work up the courage. I invited her over under the pretense of a wine night, then showed her the 23andMe profile and said, "Mom, what the hell is this?" Her face went white. She sat down and didn't speak for a full minute. Then she broke. She told me everything. My dad, the man who raised me, who taught me how to ride a bike and cried at my high school graduation, was infertile. They'd tried everything. When it didn't work, my mum secretly went to a fertility clinic and used donor sperm. She told no one, not even my dad. She picked someone who was anonymous, a college student, smart, artistic. She never thought it would matter, never thought I'd find out. She didn't know it was Ben, didn't even remember the donor number. She never imagined that 20 years later, her other daughter would marry that donor. The odds were impossible. And yet, here we are. Naomi married the man who, without knowing, is my biological father, which means my sister married my dad, technically. Genetically, biologically. It's not incest in the traditional sense. They share no DNA. They had no idea. They still have no idea. But I know. And it's been eating me alive for 2 years. I tried to tell myself it didn't matter. That biology doesn't make a father. That Naomi's husband didn't raise me, never changed my diapers or walked me to kindergarten. But then I'd go to family dinners and see Ben across the table, grinning, pouring my wine, making little comments like, "You know, you look more like Naomi every year," and I'd want to scream. I stopped going to holidays, stopped replying to Naomi's texts sometimes. She thinks I'm going through depression. She's not wrong, I go to therapy now. I told my therapist. She said that secrets like this are time bombs, that one day it'll all come out, that I will have to be the one to choose when. But I can't. I just can't. How do I tell my sister that her husband is my father? How do I tell my dad, the man who raised me, that I know the truth? How do I tell Ben? He's not a bad man. And I genuinely believe he never knew. The donation was anonymous. He told Naomi once that he did something stupid for beer money back in the day, and now I wonder if that was code for this, if deep down he suspects, if he looks at me and knows. Sometimes I think I should just disappear, move away, start over. Pretend I never took that stupid test, but then I see Naomi post a picture of them on Instagram, her and Ben, arms around each other, smiling like they won the cosmic lottery, and I feel this twist in my gut, because she did win. She married the man she loved, and I got handed the truth that makes loving either of them feel like a lie. That's my confession. I'm the daughter of my sister's husband, and I have no idea who I am anymore. I built an entire online identity based on my old roommate's life, and I think I'm in too deep. This is the story of how I slowly, deliberately and fully became someone else. It started small, harmless even, or at least I told myself it was, but now 7 years later, I'm living a double life that's starting to bleed into reality, and I don't know how to stop. I've lost control of the lie, and I think it's going to ruin me. But it all started with a girl named Elena. I'm 31F. When I was 23, I moved to a new city for a job, entry-level marketing at a startup that's long since folded. Rent was sky high, so I went on Craigslist and found a room in a 2-bedroom apartment. The ad was written in lowercase letters, overly enthusiastic and full of emojis. It felt like it was written by a golden retriever. I loved it. That's how I met Elena, then 24F. She was the kind of person I didn't think actually existed in real life. Beautiful, in that effortless, Instagram but better way. Her laugh was loud and contagious. She could cook like a chef, dress like a model, sing like she belonged on Broadway. And she had this insane ability to walk into any room and instantly make people fall in love with her. And she liked me. We became close, quickly. She taught me how to curl my hair, gave me books she'd already dog-eared and highlighted, took me to parties where I met people who were way out of my league. She introduced me to thrift stores and dive bars and fancy $10 cheese. I felt like a side character in a much cooler person's movie. And slowly I started changing. At first it was clothes, then books, then playlists. I dyed my hair lighter because hers was blonde and sun-kissed. I wore oversized sweaters and vintage rings like she did. I started quoting her in conversations, repeating her expressions, laughing like her, smiling. Like her, and no one noticed. Or if they did, they didn't say anything. Then one night I made a fake Instagram account. I told myself it was just for fun, just to see what it felt like to be her. I called the account Elena de Luna, a nickname. I once heard someone call her at a party. I used old photos I'd taken of her. She had no idea. I made the account private, followed some random strangers and posted like I was her. People responded. Quickly. Enthusiastically. They thought she was a model, a poet, a dream girl. I posted food she didn't eat, places she'd never been, quotes she hadn't said. I fabricated a personality based on the most appealing parts of her, and people loved it, so I kept going. It got easier and easier to slip into that voice. She never really used social media much anyway. She said it made her anxious, so there wasn't much risk. I started writing long captions about healing, growth, wanderlust, vintage wine. People slid into the DMs. I flirted. I gave advice. I even made a Pinterest and TikTok under the same name. And then I met someone, well, not met, but you know what I mean. His name was Sean. He followed the Instagram account and started commenting on my posts. Heart eyes, poetry quotes. Eventually, DMs. We started talking every day. He was 27, a photographer from Seattle. He said my words felt like they reached inside his brain. I played coy, posted vague selfies, claimed I was camera shy but liked mystery. It was thrilling, addicting. I created a whole identity around Elena, but tweaked, softer, more mysterious. A little sadder, like she had layers no one else could reach. A broken-hearted romantic who quoted Rumi and drank lavender tea. The real Elena was chaotic, hilarious, brilliant, a little messy. The version I made was an idealized fairy tale version, the perfect woman. And Sean fell in love with her. Hard. He sent me long letters, music he composed, poetry he wrote about her, me. He begged to meet. He offered to fly out. And I kept finding excuses. I told myself I'd end it, that I was sparing him pain, but I didn't stop, because I loved being her, because I felt seen for the first time, not as myself, but as her, because for once, someone loved me exactly the way I always wished I could be. Meanwhile, the real Elena was dating a drummer, applying to grad school, planning a trip to Morocco. She had no idea what I was doing. Until she found out, sort of. It was a random Wednesday night. We were both home, curled up on opposite ends of the couch watching some terrible reality show. She suddenly looked up and asked, "Hey, do you have a second Instagram account?" I froze. She held up her phone. "This girl followed me, Elena de Luna. Kind of weird name, right? She looks sort of familiar." My stomach dropped, but I played it cool. I laughed and said, "People are always making fake accounts, probably someone catfishing." She shrugged, unfollowed, blocked it. Didn't think. Twice, and I deleted the account that night, but it was too late because I missed being her. So I made a new version, new name, new city, new vibe. I took everything I learned from the first account, how to speak, how to seduce, how to become magnetic, and refined it. Better photos, not of Elena anymore, but of models and influencers with similar vibes. Aesthetic filters. Her entire brand. I called her Elena. Elena became a minimalist, a plant lover, a solo traveler, a meditation guru, a trauma healer, fair, mysterious, soft-spoken, endlessly poetic woman who wrote about grief and growth like she'd lived 5 lives. I became her for hours a day, I built her a following, over 40,000 now. I made affiliate links, took sponsorship deals. People started paying me to write captions, to coach them through heartbreak, to give life advice, all under her name. I still have my real job, my real apartment. But Alina is becoming realer than me. She has more friends, more followers, more power. And I'm scared I don't know how to undo it, because now Sean is back. He found the new account and he thinks it's her, he thinks it's me, and he still loves her. He wants to meet. Again. I looked at his profile last night. He's still in Seattle. Single. And he left a comment. I knew it was you, I'd know your soul anywhere. And for a second I almost replied, because part of me wants to be her, not myself. Not the sad, quiet, overlooked girl in the background, but Alina, or Elena, or whatever ideal I've manufactured. But I can't do it anymore, because it's not a game now. It's not innocent. It's a life. And people are getting hurt. Especially me. I don't know how to come clean. I don't know how to stop, but I know this can't keep going, because I don't even know who I am anymore. I got my best friend deported to save my marriage, and I don't think I regret it. I've never told anyone this, and I probably never will outside of this post. Everyone in my life thinks it was just a tragic misunderstanding. But I'm the reason it happened. I planned it, I did it. And some days I hate myself for it. Other days I sleep like a baby. My name doesn't matter. I'm a 36-year-old woman living in a major U.S. city. I've been married to my husband, Matt, 38M, for 9 years. We met through work. He was charming, ambitious, a little arrogant, but in a way that I found magnetic. We were one of those couples people described as power partners. Good jobs, a nice condo, vacations abroad, couples brunches, the poor eye, whole curated Instagram life. But what people didn't see was how empty it started to feel. We stopped laughing, stopped connecting. We were more like business partners than spouses. We'd have dinner together, but be on our phones. We stopped having sex for months at a time. We were polite, friendly even, but not in love, not anymore. And then he came back, Luca. My best friend, Luca, 35M, was my closest friend in college. We met during sophomore year in a creative writing class. He was Italian, here on a student visa, smart, funny, impossibly charming. Everyone adored him. I adored him. But we were always platonic. He was in love with someone else at the time, and by the time he was single, I was dating Matt. Still, we stayed close. After graduation, Luca moved back to Italy when his visa expired. We stayed in touch through emails, long midnight calls, and occasional visits, though those got rarer after I got married. Matt always seemed a little jealous of him, though he never outright said it. Then, 3 years ago, Luca moved back to the US on a work visa. He got a job with a digital arts company in New York. He called me as soon as he landed. I remember feeling more excitement in that one phone call than I had in an entire year of marriage. We met for coffee, then lunch, then dinner, and before. I could stop it, it became something more. It started with a kiss, then nights in his apartment, then months of sneaking around. I know. I was that person, the cheater, the liar, the cliché. But it felt like coming alive again, like I'd been living in a beige, soundproof room and someone finally threw open the windows. I was in love with him. I never stopped being in love with him, and I told him that. He said he loved me too. We started planning. He said he'd propose if I left Matt. He said we could build a life, move somewhere new, travel the world, write poetry, drink wine in the middle of the day. All of it sounded so impossibly romantic, but I hesitated. I always hesitated, because Matt wasn't a bad man. He didn't hit me. He wasn't cruel. He paid the bills, made me laugh occasionally, kissed my forehead at night. He was safe, and then everything changed. Luca's visa was about to expire. His company had botched the paperwork for his renewal. He had 60 days to leave the country or find a legal way to stay. Marry me, he said. Let's do it. Now. Come with me to City Hall. We'll figure out the rest later. I said I needed time, and that's when the panic started, because suddenly this wasn't a fantasy, it was real. It meant destroying my marriage, hurting Matt, facing my family and friends. It meant giving up everything safe and starting over, with a man I loved deeply, but didn't fully trust to handle reality. Luca was a dreamer, a romantic, but also impulsive, moody, sometimes distant. What if it didn't work? What if I left Matt and Luca changed his mind? What if I ended up alone? I spiraled, and then, God help me, I did the unthinkable. I called in a tip, anonymous, a few clicks, a burner email. I told USCIS that Luca was working under the wrong visa classification and his employer had failed to renew the proper documents. 2 weeks later, ICE showed up at his apartment. He called me from detention. He was crying. I'd never heard him cry before. They said someone reported me. I don't understand. Why would someone do this? I lied. I told him I'd try to help, that I'd call lawyers, that I was devastated, but I did nothing. He was deported 6 weeks later, back to Italy. No appeal, no loophole. Matt held me when... I cried. He thought I was mourning the loss of a friend. In a way I was. Luca sent me one letter before he left. He said he didn't understand what happened, that he loved me, that if I ever wanted to find him he'd be waiting. I never wrote. Back, Matt and I started couples therapy shortly after. Things slowly improved. We're not perfect, but we're stable again. Comfortable, sometimes even happy. We bought a dog. We refinanced the condo. We hosted Christmas dinner last year, and everyone said we were the ideal couple. But at night, when I can't sleep, I replay the moment I hit send. I destroyed a man's life. I betrayed the person I loved most, and I did it for security. Sometimes I check Luca's Instagram. It's private now. His profile picture is a sunset. Other times, I wonder if he suspects, if he ever figured it out. If he hates me, I think I'd prefer that he did, because hating me would be easier than forgiving me. That's my confession. I got my best friend deported so I wouldn't have to make a choice, and now every day I live with the ghost of the life I almost had. I was the reason my best friend's fiancé left her at the altar, and she still doesn't know I've been carrying this secret for over 6 years. It ruined someone I loved like family, and every time I look at her, I feel like I'm wearing a mask. This secret burned through the best friendship I ever had, and the worst part, I'm the one who lit the match. Let me start at the beginning. I'm 32F now. My best friend, Amanda, 32F, and I met in 5th grade. We were both weird, bookish kids who preferred quiet corners and fantasy novels to sports and popularity contests. By the time we hit high school, we were inseparable. People used to call us twins even though we looked nothing alike. Amanda has red curls and freckles and laughs with her whole chest. I'm pale, awkward, a little socially anxious, and I tend to hang back while she steals the spotlight. And I love that about us. I loved her. When we were 25, Amanda got engaged to this guy named Chris, 34M. She met him at a work conference. He was in sales, she was in marketing. He was smooth, charming, way too polished for my taste, but she fell for him hard. He made grand gestures, surprise flowers, candle-lit dinners, a hot air balloon proposal. It was the kind of relationship that made everyone else feel like they were watching a rom-com play out in real time. Everyone loved them, except me. I hated him from the beginning. Not in the petty he's taking my best friend away way, at least I didn't think so at the time. I told myself it was because he gave off fake vibes, because he seemed too perfect, like he was playing a part. I convinced myself I was protecting Amanda, but deep down, I think I just wanted him gone. The wedding was set for July 2018. Big venue, 200 guests, the whole Pinterest board dream. Amanda was glowing. I helped her pick out her dress. I planned her bachelorette party. I listened to her cry when her dad gave a passive-aggressive toast at the rehearsal dinner. I was the maid of honor. Her ride or die. And 3 nights before the wedding, everything changed. It was the rehearsal dinner. Chris got drunk. Not sloppy, just loosened up. Amanda was busy talking to relatives, and Chris came over to where I was sitting alone outside, smoking a cigarette I didn't even want. He sat beside me. He started talking about how fast everything felt, about pressure, about expectations, and then he said something that made my blood go cold. You know, if things were different, if I'd met you first. I laughed, nervously, told him to cut the crap. But he didn't. He looked at me and said, "I'm serious, you're real, she's a fantasy. Beautiful, yeah, but exhausting. Always has to be the star, but you're grounded, you see people." I told him to leave. I said he was drunk. I said this was wildly inappropriate. He leaned in and he kissed me. I pushed him away, hard, called him disgusting, told him to stay away from me and that if he ever did anything like that again, I'd tell Amanda everything. He apologized, said he was drunk and stupid and that it didn't mean anything, but it did. And the worst part is, part of me liked it. I didn't want to admit that then, but I have to now. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning I started spiraling. I imagined Amanda marrying him and never knowing what he'd done. I pictured years of secrets, manipulation, and her slowly losing herself in that marriage. Wanted to protect her, but I also wanted him gone, so I made a choice. I wrote him a letter. It wasn't signed. I printed it at a library, wrote it as someone who knew the truth. I told him I saw him kiss me, that I knew it wasn't the first time he'd cheated, that if he didn't back out of the wedding, I'd tell Amanda everything. I said I had screenshots even though I didn't. I mailed it to his hotel. 2 days later, Amanda was in her wedding dress, hair done, makeup perfect, music playing, guests seated, and Chris never showed up. She thought he'd been in an accident. Called the hospitals, sent her brother to look for him. Eventually, a hotel employee said he'd checked out that morning. Just gone. He texted her hours later. A single message. "I'm sorry, I can't do this." She collapsed, and I held her while she screamed. She didn't eat for days, slept on my couch, cried until she vomited. Every person in her life tried to find answers. She was humiliated. People whispered that she must have done something, that maybe she was too much, that maybe she scared him away. But I knew the truth, because I made it happen. Chris never contacted her again. A few months later, she heard he'd moved out of state, took a job in Denver, got engaged a year later to someone else. She never got closure. She still cries sometimes, especially around July. She says the worst part is not knowing why, and I nod, and I lie. And I say things like, "He was a coward," and "You deserve better," when what I really want to do is confess. Want to scream, "I did it. I wrote that letter. I scared him away because I was afraid he'd ruin you, and maybe because I wanted to be the hero. Or maybe because deep down, I was always jealous of you, of your light, of the way people looked at you, of how he looked at you. Or maybe I just wanted you to need me again. And the part that haunts me is this: I don't regret that he's gone. I think he was a fraud. I think he would have broken her slowly. I do think I saved her, but I did it the wrong way, and now I'll never be able to tell her, because if I do, I'll lose her, and I've already taken too much from her to ever deserve her forgiveness. That's my confession. I was the reason my best friend got left at the altar, and she still has no idea. I switched my brother's baby at the hospital, and no one knows. I've never told anyone this. I don't expect forgiveness. I know what I did was wrong, unforgivable probably, but it wasn't out of hate. It was out of love. Misguided, messed up, desperate love. I changed someone's entire life without their consent. I stole a future and replaced it with another, and I'd do it again. I'm 38F. My brother, Sam, is 40M. He was the golden child, smart, athletic, charming, the kind of guy who could break the law and somehow get praised for his resourcefulness. We grew up in a small town where our dad was the local sheriff and our mom ran the diner everyone ate at. We were known, which meant that Sam got away with everything, and I was expected to stay in line. I loved Sam. I worshipped him. When our mom died suddenly in our early 20s, we were all each other had. Our dad checked out emotionally, buried himself in bourbon and silence. I became the caretaker of Sam, of the house, of everything. So when Sam got his girlfriend, Carrie, then 18F, pregnant at 24, I panicked. Carrie was a quiet girl, fresh out of high school, no family support, already working 2 jobs. I knew what Sam was like, charming but flighty, all promises and no follow-through. He swore he'd do right by her. He didn't. By the time she hit 6 months, Sam was already disappearing for days at a time. When I asked, he'd say he needed space, or that she was too clingy, or that she trapped him. I tried to be neutral, but every time I saw Carrie sitting alone on our porch steps, rubbing her swollen belly and pretending not to cry, I felt something twist inside me. I started driving her to appointments, buying baby stuff. I was there when the baby kicked for the first time. I helped her pick out names. She wanted to name the baby Grayson. Sam said it sounded too soft. The baby came early, 5 weeks premature. Carrie's labor was long. Brutal. I was there, Sam wasn't. He was in another city, job hunting, but we both knew what that meant. Grayson was born tiny but fierce, with a shock of dark hair and this soft, croaky little cry. He looked like Carrie. Delicate, serious, beautiful. And that's when everything broke, because 4 hours later another baby was wheeled into the nursery. I'd gone out to grab coffee. When I came back, I saw him. Another baby, another preemie. Same birth weight, same dark hair. Born 2 rooms over to a woman who looked like she hadn't slept in weeks. I overheard the nurses whispering that the mom was a heroin addict. The baby would be taken by CPS as soon as she was discharged. No name had been listed yet. He was Baby Boy Doe. Something happened to me in that moment. I can't explain it. I'd like to say I had a breakdown. That I blacked out. But the truth is, I was calm, cold even. I looked at that baby, then I looked at Grayson, and I thought, Sam won't stay for him. But maybe for this one. A clean slate, a second chance. I didn't plan it. Not really. But the hospital was chaotic. It was flu season, overcrowded, understaffed. There was a shift change. The tags were nearly identical, close enough that I noticed one had been marked with the wrong date. I saw the opportunity and I took it. I switched the bands. I wheeled Baby Doe into Carrie's room and handed him to her. And she didn't know. She was exhausted, delirious, full of epidural and tears and relief. She looked at that baby like he was the moon and the stars. She didn't question it. No one did. I went home that night and vomited until I passed out in the hallway. I told myself I was saving Grayson, that he didn't deserve to grow up with Sam as a father. That Baby Doe had no one. He'd go into the system, bounced around from foster home to foster home, maybe even die of neglect. But if he became Grayson, if he became Carrie's, he'd have a chance. And Grayson? The real Grayson? He was taken into the NICU for breathing problems. I knew the mother wasn't capable of caring for him. She'd tested positive for fentanyl and meth. But I also knew how the system worked. She'd get another shot. Maybe rehab. Maybe a second chance. I left the hospital 3 days later with Carrie and Baby Doe. They named him Grayson. They raised him as theirs. And the real Grayson, my nephew by blood, was eventually placed with his birth mother after she completed a treatment program. I checked obsessively for 2 years, watched her Facebook, checked court records, even once drove by their apartment complex when I was in town. He was okay. She stayed clean. He looked happy in photos. Sometimes I tell myself that means I made the right choice, but I don't know. Grayson. He's 6 now. He's funny, loves dinosaurs, has this goofy little laugh that makes everyone around him smile. He calls me Auntie M. He knows how to make pancakes. He hates bedtime. He's never once looked at me like he doesn't belong, but sometimes I catch Carrie staring at him, and I wonder if she knows. Not knows, but feels it. That subtle disconnect. The way a mother sometimes just knows something isn't quite right, even if she can't name it. She and Sam eventually broke up, shocking no one. He moved out, pops in occasionally, sends child support when he remembers. Carrie's the one raising Grayson. She's a good mom. She loves him with every inch of her soul. And I hope, he loves her too. But sometimes, when I lie awake, at night I wonder about the real Grayson. Does he feel out of place? Is he loved the same way? Does he ever look in the mirror and wonder why his smile doesn't match his mother's? I wonder what would happen if I told the truth. If I went to Carrie and said, I stole your baby. He's not yours. Would she hate me? Would she call the police? Would she tear apart her son's identity just to satisfy the truth? I think about it all the time, but I never do it, because I see Grayson laughing in the yard, chasing butterflies, building Lego castles, and I tell myself, he's happy, He's safe, he's loved, and maybe that's enough. Maybe that has to be enough, even if it was never my choice to make. My sister and I made a pact to never tell the truth about our father's death, but I'm starting to break. This is the story I've never told. Not to my therapist, not to my husband, not even to my sister fully. Not in the way I think it. Needs to be told. We swore we'd keep this to our graves, and I've lived by that for over 15 years, but it's rotting me from the inside because the truth is, our father didn't die how everyone thinks he did. We made sure of that. And I think it's time I say what really happened. I'm 35F. My sister Ava is 37F. We were always close. Closer than sisters, really. We shared everything growing up. Clothes, secrets, dreams. We'd sneak out together, lie for each other, take the blame for things the other one did. It was us against the world. Our house was a battlefield, and we were the survivors. Our mum was a ghost. She worked 2 jobs, rarely home, emotionally absent even when she was. And our dad, he was the tyrant, he was never outright evil. That's what made it worse. There was no bruises to point at, no evidence to show. He was quiet in his cruelty, calculated. He'd cut you down with a look, a comment, silence that felt like suffocation. And sometimes when the mood hit just right, he'd get drunk and storm through the house like a tornado. We never knew what would set him off. A bad day at work, a misplaced plate, a slammed door. Then he'd come for us, usually Ava first. He never raised a fist, but his words were weapons. And the threats, and those were worse than any beating. I should have left you both in that hospital. I swear to God, if you talk back to me, I'll make you regret ever opening your mouth. You're lucky I don't treat you the way my father treated me. We learned to be quiet, invisible. But you can only hold your breath for so long before something inside you snaps. It happened the summer I turned 19. Ava was already 21, back home from college for the summer. She'd gotten into a decent university, on a partial scholarship, and busted her ass through school just to get away from our house. I had just finished freshman year at community college and was still living at home, trying to save up money to move out. That night started like 100 others. Our dad came home drunk. He stumbled in around 11 p.m., the screen door slamming behind. Him so hard the windows rattled. Ava and I were on the couch watching some old movie, trying to pretend everything was fine. He came in ranting about how we didn't respect him, how lazy we were, how we were sucking the life out of him. He fixated on Ava, started yelling at her for not getting a real job during the summer, told her she was an ungrateful little bitch who thought she was better than everyone. She told him to fuck off. I'll never forget the way the air left the room when she said it. He charged toward her. I jumped in between them. He shoved me so hard I fell into the coffee table, cracked my arm on the edge, and that's when Ava snapped. She didn't scream, she didn't cry. She went still, cold like the way an animal goes quiet before it attacks. She walked into the kitchen, grabbed the cast-iron skillet from the stovetop and came back. He didn't even see it coming. One swing. That's all it took. It connected, with a sickening sound. His eyes rolled back. He dropped like a stone. We thought he was dead, but he wasn't. He was still breathing, moaning. His skull was bleeding, but he was alive. We froze. We didn't know what to do. Call 911? Say it was self-defense? But Ava had hit him after the threat had passed. He hadn't touched her, just yelled. We were both underage. We didn't trust the police, and most of all, we were terrified. So, we did nothing. We dragged him into the hallway, left him there, and sometime in the early morning that he died. We don't know when. We only know that when we checked around 4 a.m., he was cold. We sat on the kitchen floor for hours, staring at each other in silence. And then Ava said, "We have to make it look like an accident." The next few hours were a blur. We cleaned the blood, moved the body to the bottom of the basement stairs, pulled out a bottle of scotch, poured some on his clothes, smashed a few things to make it look like he'd tripped. When our mum got home around 7 a.m. from her overnight diner shift, she found us crying by his body. Told her we'd found him like that. She believed us. Why wouldn't she? The coroner ruled it an accident. Blunt force trauma to the back of the head from a fall. Alcohol was in his system. No one questioned it. No one ever did. We were free, but we were never free. I had nightmares for years, still do sometimes. Not about him, about me, about what I did, what I allowed, what I covered up. Ava coped differently. She buried it, went back to school, graduated top of her class, got a job in social work, married a nice guy, had 2 kids. She lives in the suburbs now, in a house with hardwood floors and lemon trees. She calls me every Sunday. We don't talk about it. Ever. But last year, her oldest daughter, my niece, asked me why her mom never talks about her grandpa. I froze. I mumbled something vague about him dying young. She looked me straight in the eye and said, "Was he a bad man?" And I saw it then, the beginning of the unraveling. Ava and I are holding a secret between us like a live wire. And it's buzzing, louder every year. My husband knows something is off. He says I talk in my sleep, that I say things like, "I'm sorry and please don't." He's asked gently if something happened to me when I was young. I always say no. But I feel like I'm losing pieces of myself to this lie. Like I'm haunted not just by what happened, but by the version of me that never existed. The girl who stood up, the girl who told the truth. Sometimes I wonder if we did the right thing. He was a monster. I know that. But he didn't deserve to die like that. Did he? Did we kill him? Or did we just let him die? Is there a difference? Ava would say yes. But I'm not sure anymore. So I'm writing this here. Not to confess to the police. Not to bring justice. I know it's too late for that. I'm writing this because I need someone, anyone, to know the truth. Our father didn't fall. We let him die. And sometimes, when it's quiet, I think I hear him falling all over again.